right, listen up. Most people will miss out on this, so I want you to pay very close attention. There is a business model that's very similar to the agency and SMMA model, except it has the ability to turn kids as young as 17 into millionaires within a matter of months. Now, I know that's an absolutely outlandish claim to make. However, I taught this business model to Brendan, who went from being an overworked sales rep working 14-hour days, only making between $15,000 and $25,000 a month, to making over $5 million as a 19-year-old within 4 months of me showing him this business model, which I'm terming neo investment banking. And he did that by closing a $200 million real estate transaction and taking a percentage of that total transaction as a fee. And the crazy part about this is he didn't have to learn any other skills. He didn't need to know anything about real estate or finance. He just needed to have his marketing and sales skills, which he already developed over the past few years working as a sales rep. And today, I'm gonna break down exactly how he did it step by step so you can copy him.
Bro, you just look how much value you just gave me. Fucking hell. Bro, I'm gonna make you proud. Just tell me what I need to do and I'm gonna shut up and do it.
So I'm gonna break down a few key pieces for you right now. The first piece is I'm gonna show you the exact steps that Brendan took to make a little over $5,324,000 within 4 months. The next piece is how he charged between $25,000 and $50,000 upfront per engagement that he signed on. And the last piece is I'm gonna show you how he sold to guys in their 60s without knowing anything about the industry that he was selling it. So using this system, he was able to go from working 14-hour days to only needing to work a few hours a week and making double or triple for one engagement comparative to what he was making in an entire month as a closer. And not only that, but also how he was able to make mid-7 figures in commissions from getting these deals done. Now, there's a key piece here. If you think this sounds too good to be true, you should, because most people will never be able to work on transactions like this, especially at such a young age. And the reason for that is all of this information is gated. Generally, what people have to do in order to work on transactions like this is they have to go to school for at least 4 years, go and intern at a big firm, work their way up the corporate ladder, and then be granted permission from outside parties to be able to work on these transactions. And what we're doing here is we're circumventing that entire system so you can go straight to the heart of the transaction. And today, in the next few minutes, I'm gonna show you exactly how Brendan became one of the youngest successful investment bankers in history. This very well might be the most important video you watch this year. All right, so let me break this down for you. Brendan came to me in April of 2024. He saw some of the stuff on Twitter that I was putting out, showing people how I was closing these transactions and how I was showing people to essentially replicate the exact same results that I had received when I was running my firm called Savvy Capital with my previous business partner. So what he did is he came to me and he said, look, I don't want to be in the mainstream of the program. I want to work with you directly in a more one-on-one capacity. So we had one call that was like an hour, maybe 90 minutes long. And he was like, look, man, I'm going to give you more money than you've asked for, but I want you to put more effort into my account to work with me on a very close one-on-one basis. So what he did was he asked me like 100 questions within that one video. And I'm gonna throw up a snippet of that video and that call so you can see. But essentially what we did is we did a crash course on investment banking and finance. I let him know everything that he needed to research within a very short amount of time. So everything that I teach and everything that I do is all about condensing time frames into the shortest amount of time possible, using efficiency and productivity techniques and creating what I term perturbation within an individual, which is essentially where you go under immense amounts of stress and you evolve into a new being. Because in order to be the person who's capable of closing a $5 million transaction, the work that goes into that is very much so work that happens prior to you doing the deal. It's not a question of you doing the tactics to get a deal done. It's very much so a case of you doing all of the prerequisite work to get to a position where you are a person capable of doing it in the first place. And when you've done all that work, then doing the deal becomes easy. So what I did was I gave him that crash course. I let him know every single thing that he needed to learn about investment banking, private equity, family offices, finance in general, like everything that he needed to learn. And then what we did was we devised a series of offers that he could go to market with. And at the time, I thought that a fantastic play for him to go to market with was offering shell procurement for businesses or deal makers that are looking to take companies public. So for those of you who don't know, a shell company is essentially a company that has some money in it, that is already public on an exchange. And what you can do is, using these shells, you can do what's referred to as a vend-in, where you take a private entity, you do a merger, and now that private entity is now public. And I thought that there would be tremendous value for him to go to market and provide this as a service to deal makers, because this candidly was something that I was doing for one of my mentors in Vancouver. So he went to market, he tried that angle for probably 3 weeks, and we knew based off market feedback that that wasn't going to be a viable offer for him to go with long term. So we very quickly adjusted his approach. The next thing that I told him to do was go out and develop relationships with counterparties. Counterparties are the individuals on the other side of a deal. If you are on the sell side of the deal, which is what you are as an investment banker, then the people on the buy side of the deal are the counterparties. So I told him to go out on LinkedIn and develop relationships with family offices, as many as he possibly could, and do that in a way where he became friends with the portfolio manager of the actual firm or family office. I didn't narrow that or limit the scope just to family offices. I said go after private equity firms, go after, individuals, etc. And what he ended up doing was developing a relationship with a family office based out of Florida. And they, I believe $15 billion was what their assets under management was at the time. And they gave him very, very clear instructions as to what the deal criteria was for deals that they would consider funding. And one of the criteria that they had was real estate transactions. So what Brendan then did was he set up his email infrastructure that we built out using the private email servers that we use at our own firm, and also the ones that we've given to all of our students. And he started to send out emails going after issuers or clients that were essentially real estate developers. So Brendan found this real estate transaction, this, eco-friendly, modern living, whole extravaganza type deal. And what he did to close this deal was very simple. He had already gone to the buy side. He knew that he had someone who could fund it. And he very clearly articulated what the criteria was in order for them to fund that deal. And that was the sales process. He simply used the questions and the criteria that the family office had to fund the deals as his discovery process. And what that enabled him to do was now be in a position where he had altitude over the issuer, over the potential client, because he knew he was in a position of power. He knew that he had what this other individual needed. So he took him through that process. He said, look, let me get back to you. Let me see if there's something that we can do here. And, we're going to schedule a follow-up call for next week or whatever they decided to do. And he took that deal back to the family office. They said, yeah, this is something that we would consider. So on that next call, he basically said, look, we can get this deal done. I've got other folks that I can bring it to. I charged $25,000, or I believe it was $20,000 up front in order to get the engagement done. I'll throw the screenshot up here from back in the day. So in addition to the $20,000 that he charged them, he also said he was going to take 5% as a success fee on the total amount of money that was raised. And they commenced with the engagement. And essentially what he did from there is he just curated all of the documentation, the data room it's referred to as, and he passed that off to the family office relationship that he had. And then they went through their diligence process to see if it was something that they would consider in more detail. And then they got on a call with the client, and they probably had a series of a few calls. They went into further due diligence. They did diligence for another 2 months, and then the deal ended up closing. The money was allocated and he got his commission. So this was only 2 months after he started working with me. This was in about June of 2024. He started working with me in April, and he was already in a position where he was working on a $200 million deal, which he was gonna make 5 points on. Now, this total deal was $200 million, but it was a combination of equity and debt. So the equity piece, he charged 5%, and on the debt piece, he charged 2%. So while he was working on this deal, he ended up signing a few other clients. $10,000 upfront engagement for a cybersecurity company out of Israel. There are several others that he signed. But essentially, within a matter of 2 months, he was in a position where he was in diligence on a multi-9-figure deal, only 2 months after starting to work with me. Since then, Brendan's gone on to do several other transactions. I know that he's running his own ads. He's got a firm set up. He's based out of Sydney in Australia. He's taking the model and he's absolutely running with it. So if you want to learn more about this neo investment banking model and see how you can really sink your teeth into it, and moreover than that, get even more actionable advice and steps that you can take to start implementing and running your own transactions, I made a 24-minute video training that dives into this model in even more detail. So go check that out after this one, and I'll see you in the next video.